I'm a member of the Eastern Connecticut SCORE chapter, and I'd like to welcome you to the Effective Video Tools for Social Media webinar presentation today, presented by Juliet Del Rio from Miranda Creative. Miranda has been very generous with their time and their efforts in the past with our Eastern Connecticut chapter, and we really appreciate Juliet joining us today to provide this presentation. Just a couple comments about SCORE before we get started. For those of you who may not be familiar with SCORE, SCORE is an organization that's been around since 1964. It's a volunteer organization. It's a nonprofit arm of the Small Business Administration. And we provide webinars like this, and we provide many sessions with clients around the country during the year. Just one little factoid that I share with people. The last I looked, the last report that SCORE presented, I think 2 years ago, there were 31,000 businesses started with the assistance of SCORE in that particular fiscal year, which represented about 151,000 new jobs. So we're very proud of what we do. We enjoy what we do, and we hope that you appreciate the opportunity to work with us to promote businesses in this country. If you have never used a SCORE Mentor before and you're interested in doing that, and I'll put this in the chat later, this particular link, you can simply go to score.org on this particular link here, enter your zip code and match me by zip code, and basically put just a paragraph, very brief paragraph about why you're asking for help. It could be that you're starting a business or even considering starting a business, growing your business, downsizing your business, buying a business, selling a business, anything business. And basically, what we'll do is we'll assign a mentor to you who will be in touch with you in very short order. And then you work with that mentor for as long as you need to work with them. That service is free, so it is really the best deal in town. We hope you take advantage of that if you need us. Um, just a little pitch here. We started our particular chapter, started the podcast series last spring. And if you want to hear inspiring stories, we've got 3 examples of them on this particular link here that you might want to copy down. One is by a webinar presenter in the past who has used SCORE services. Another is by a SCORE mentor himself. And a third is a client of SCORE who has used the Chamber of Commerce and SCORE in tandem to start his business and grow his business. So we're very proud of that. And again, if you're a podcast listener, take advantage of that. And then finally, my comment before I turn this over is that we could not do what we do with these webinars without the support of our local community. And in today's example, we've got Ascend Bank, which was the former GSB Bank, that has given us financial support to be able to provide this particular podcast. So we thank them and we thank all of our supporters for doing that sort of thing. The logistics today is, any webinar is an overview. We can't get too much into the weeds, although depending on the topic, sometimes we really are required to do that. Everyone is on mute, but you can type questions into the chat room. And Miranda has provided kindly another person, Ryan Doran, who's going to, a colleague of Juliet's, who's going to monitor that chat room. And you can post questions, and at appropriate times, Ryan and Juliet will interface and address the questions. One thing we do ask you to do is when you go into chat, there's a little pull down. Make sure you select everyone so that everyone sees your question. This avoids, the same question being asked 10 different times. Um, and then finally, what I wanted to tell you is that this particular webinar will be available. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Will be available on the score.org website in a couple days. So you can go to score.org and get the entire presentation on that site. So with that, I'm going to just introduce Juliet. I mentioned that Miranda has been very generous with providing us information for our webinars in the past. Juliet is a repeat performer. She is the lead digital brand manager for Miranda Creative. And Juliet, I'm kind of disappear into the ether here and let you and Ryan kind of take over and run the show. And if you have any questions for me, Juliet or Ryan, just let me know and I'll come back and be visible.
Thank you so much, Dave. I'll start my screen share. Okay, so you all should be finding yourselves at the effective video tools for social media presentation. I had a brief introduction from Dave. So I am the lead digital brand manager at Miranda Creative. We're a marketing agency in Norwich. We have different services from digital, social media, paid ads, brand management, content writing, design, web team. So I am both on the digital and brand management team, and Ryan joins us from the design team. I've been at Miranda Creative for a little over 2 years now. And before that, I've worked in marketing for about 10 years, mostly in-house spaces. So doing a lot of everything in an in-house situation. I have a undergraduate degree in TV, screenwriting, and production, and a double major in English creative writing and literature. And then I did my master's degree from Drexel in creative writing and screenwriting. From there, I've been teaching at the college level. So I've taught film and American society, critical and creative thinking. I was recently at Eastern Connecticut University, and I also teach at the University of Delaware, where my favorite project is having students take their final composition essays and make it into a video project, because I feel so strongly that everyone should have video editing skills in 2025. It is around us everywhere and very important, especially if you are running your business. Ryan, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Thanks, Juliet. I'm Ryan Doran. As she mentioned, I'm part of the design team. I'm the senior graphic designer and a bit of a motion design specialist here. I do pretty much a large majority of the animation and motion graphics and a bit of video editing work as well. Some major brand reveals and social media campaigns that involve motion graphics and video editing. So I have, a pretty good intermediate or advanced level experience with some of these tools and some even more advanced tools. So I should be able to answer any of the questions you guys have in the chat and support Juliet as she's going through the presentation.
Yes, thank you. So Ryan will be responding to the questions because it's very hard to give a presentation while responding to questions. So he will help out with that. And if there's anything else, we have a Q&A at the end so we can have a longer question discussion towards that part. Today, we'll start out with some vocabulary terms that we'll be using for editing. We'll talk about content capture if you need to go out and get your own footage, some of the different apps that you can use. I think one of the most overwhelming parts is all of the options that you have and how do you know which one is the best fit, as well as some of the editing step by step. So for this part, I have a lot of screenshots on what you'll be seeing. I invite you to download one of the apps if you haven't already that we're going through and just play around with footage on your own. It could be a picture of your dog snoring or a really pretty sunset at the beach. It doesn't have to tell a real story, but as long as you have video content on your phone, you can see the applications that we're working with. So as David said at the beginning, this is an overview, which means this is a basic level course. You may learn some things if you're not familiar with other apps, with other tools. Maybe you do know how to get videos up, but you're still struggling with, why can't I see everything at the same time? Or how do I get these sound effects in here? We might be able to help advance that as well. But just as a reminder, this is aimed to be a 101 beginner's course. Okay. So getting into the basics, some vocabulary terms to know. I have here nonlinear editing. That's layers media on a timeline using multiple tracks, each for a different element like video or audio. It gets its name nonlinear, coming from linear editing, which is back in the day where they had the two tape machines and tying it together, and a lot different there. So seeing at how far the video process has come from having no sound to the magic of adding sound to now we have crazy technology right in our hands. You'll hear me say tracks. Each track holds a different piece of media, such as video, audio, graphics, or effects that are layered on top of one another. And I have screenshots to explain this as well if you've never opened a video editing app before. There is the main track, the primary storyline, and the most prominent layer for the project. From there, you would see B-roll, which is where if you cut away and then come back to the footage, that same main track is there the whole time. The video just plays whatever you layered on top of that. I don't typically hear it referred to as A-roll. Technically, it would be A-roll to have the main track and B-roll. But for whatever reason, main track and B-roll are just more common in speak. There's also scrubbing, which is manually dragging the playhead or progress marker along the timeline of a video or audio file, allowing you to quickly and precisely navigate through the content. So that way you don't have to hit play and sit through and watch a 1-minute clip. You can drag through it and say, oh, I'm bored after 10 seconds, let's cut that out, and then skip to the end. There's also overlay and picture-in-picture, known as PIP. Those are the techniques for placing one video or image on top of another, creating a smaller window within the main video for the viewer to see additional content simultaneously. So instead of completely cutting away to a new scene, you just have the item. You'll see this in tutorials, or people are talking about a project, they just point to their corner and they point to the other corner and the product is popping up. The software that we're using allows you to have that picture-in-picture as well, which I will say 2 years ago, that was not in the palm of our hands like it is today. So this is an intense example. We're not quite doing this today. I just put this here partly to scare you, partly to say what it can be. So this is what I mean by tracks. I know the image is probably very large depending on the screen that you have, but you can see these first ones, they start with the letter V for video. These are all different filters and images and sound, visual effects and titles that are being layered in there. And then at the bottom, everything starts with A for audio. So this is all the sound mixing that goes into professional cinema level video editing. So likely at our level, we might have maybe 4 tracks, a little bit more if you've got lots of different titles layered in at the same time that are staying on screen. But that's an example of the professional level editing. And I know Ryan said he's done some that look similar because of his animations and what that takes to pull off an animation. There are some keyboard shortcuts. If you are editing and you think, wow, this is really tedious to edit on my desktop, I wish there was just the click of a button. There are. I have the disclaimer that these can vary per editing software, but there are some standard ones. If you're using something like Avid or Premiere or Final Cut, they often sell keyboard covers specific to the action that that key performs, so you don't have to memorize them. The most important one would be the play and pause spacebar. So you don't have to navigate over to hit play and then navigate to make your edit. You can just hit tap to get the video to play. Other ones like undo, redo, you're probably familiar with Control Z. These are similar to typing in a document, splitting a clip, zooming in and out, duplicating a clip, copy, paste. You're probably familiar with that one. We don't need to go into detail because most of you will probably do this on your phone, but adding my little note that if you do choose to edit with desktop, make sure you look into the keyboard shortcuts. Okay, Ryan, everything good with questions, or do we need to pause for anything?
Yep. Trying to answer everyone's questions. I'm gonna drop the Miranda Creative YouTube channel link in there shortly. People were asking if they can find the presentation afterward or if they'll get the the slide presentation, that should be available through Score. And like I said, Miranda Creative's YouTube channel, which I'll drop in shortly.
Thank you for handling that. All right. So let's look at content capture, because before you can edit a video, you will need to have something to edit. The pre-production step is so important. Within film, there is pre-production, you have the filming, the production, and the post-production, which is the editing. I really, really emphasize starting with some kind of a idea or storyboard. There's no sadder feeling quite like leaving the party and going home and realizing you missed a very important shot. So having that list with you, that way you don't have to go back and reshoot. It's also your blueprint for editing. If you've got 5 shots of each piece, you've got tons of film that you're working with and you need to stay organized. So that storyboard will say, this is the exact piece that I'm looking for. I also recommend finding comp videos. Not everything has to be based off of a trend, but you can still look at what is working well online as inspiration. So maybe it's something short and sweet, or maybe it's a longer form story, but definitely consulting what others are doing first. A trend specifically would be, maybe you've seen the Nicki Minaj trend where they're sitting on one high heel, balancing, doing something. That's the example of a trend, but aesthetics and the style of what's performing well is not considered to be a short-lived trend like that. You should also determine what aligns best with your brand. If you're looking for casual, professional, something very aesthetic or educational, there's so many different directions you can take with video content. If you are a business owner giving people advice on, you're a consultant and you want to give them some tips to hook them in, or a realtor who's looking for something professional, or a cafe who wants to show the cozy vibes. You may have no audio, it may be you mostly speaking, so that's really going to vary depending on how you expect to shoot that footage. When you set out to film, iPhone is perfectly fine. I would recommend your own phone for video app editing. If you plan to do more desktop editing, if your phone is not suited for this kind of app involvement, which sometimes I have an iPhone 13, my phone can get very, very hot if I'm editing a video for too long. It does require a happy phone in order to use these apps. You could also use, again, something more advanced like a DSLR camera. And if you need to do any lighting, surely you've seen the ring lighting setups like this, where it just adds a brightness and a natural light to yourself if you're putting your face on camera. You can also look into different tripods or stabilizers. This can help if you're filming either in public or on your own. You don't have to have a friend, and even if you do, sometimes they're shaking a lot, so that will help you get consistent shots and not need to have someone with you all the time if you are in fact the person you're putting on camera. If you are filming others, you can certainly set that up as well to avoid any unexpected shakes. For lighting and accessories, if you're product-based, you can get an easy backdrop here and find ways to spice that up with props, with movement. There are some more advanced lighting sets. These bar style lightings here usually have magnetic clips that you can hang up if you are lighting a larger room. And I definitely recommend a microphone. These specifically have a windsock on them, so they will help take out any little wrinkles of sound. If it's a windy day, they can do a good amount. They're not going to completely cut out the wind. But you've definitely heard videos on social media where someone sounds really far away or it's really garbled, and just having that plug into your phone, it transmits wirelessly and really enhances the quality of your audio, especially if you're far away from your phone.
Juliet, you mind if I touch on the audio thing for a second? So if for whatever reason, like she was saying, you don't have a good microphone, and you are using your built-in audio from your iPhone or something like that, and you notice that there are a lot of background noises, or like muffling or wind noises, There are some really great free online tools that can clean up that audio for you. And I can drop links to that in the chat as well. But it's a good solution if you don't have the extra equipment, and it's something that I've used quite often to clean up audio and make it sound more professional, even if it wasn't originally recorded that way.
Mhm. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, there's a lot with AI that we're able to do as well. I know, speaking of audio, I think it was Ryan who figured out we needed a client video in Spanish, and he had AI. It even changed the person's mouth to match the way that Spanish was being spoken. So it didn't look like a complete dub. So we're even surprised by the things that we discover today. More on getting the shot. Social media is a very visual platform. Pretty does matter. In order to grab people, you've got 3 seconds on average to get someone's attention. So getting that bright blue background, that bright white scene, checking your backgrounds for clutter, trash cans, or distracting colors, there's certainly a push for authenticity. It's not to say that we all live in magically clean offices and we are all perfect, but your eye is drawn to the bright blue trash can in the background, the dump of yellow paint on the sidewalk, things that you might not have realized while filming are suddenly very prominent when they're focused on screen. Also looking at lighting. If you're filming in an office space, you might have harsh fluorescent lighting. That's not going to do you any favors. If you try to go outside, the harsh sunlight can also cast some really harsh shadows. So ideally, you would have a softly lit room, or you could stand under a tree during daylight that has a little bit of diffusion to it. But you'll see as you start to film how that quality can impact the final product. I know Ryan is also very passionate about the cinematic mode on your iPhone because that can produce the higher quality videos, but I have experience it's not low light friendly. I was filming at a bar table in a club kind of scene, and because it was so dark, it was having trouble focusing, so I wasn't able to use cinematic mode like I had hoped there. Recommend getting a safety shot in case the other doesn't look right when you edit. Now you have your backup, as well as leaving a few seconds before and after the action to allow for trimming and transitions. If you add a dissolve, it's going to pull from the clips before and after it, so that could end up cutting off your audio if you did not leave any safety buffers on your clips. Ryan, anything else?
Yeah, to touch on your point about the cinematic mode, it is good for specific types of shots. Shots where you have a very clear subject. If you're recording a person, um, you know, that's directly in front of the camera, it'll do a good job of blurring the background and making it look very professional. But for example, if you're taking a video of a landscape and you're, trying to film like a mountain range, cinematic mode might not be the right fit for that type of shot. Um, and I believe camera settings will be discussed in further detail later when it comes to iPhone. So that should clear some of that up as well.
Mhm. Thank you. So the best practices when filming, when shooting on your iPhone, make sure to select the highest resolution possible, like the 4K or the frames per second. Natural light will always look more authentic and nicer than artificial light. So finding a location where you can shoot consistently with light. Additionally, if you're there for a while, you might be chasing the sunlight as it's disappearing. If you're doing a lot of speaking within your videos, consider investing in those lavalier mics or the other Apple mics to speak for that clearer dictation. You can also record your voiceovers separately in the app or on your phone. So you don't have to do it in the MP4, the video format. You could do that in the audio format as well. Good, right? A note on stock footage: if you find yourself struggling to capture content maybe it's just you for your business and you want to give your face on screen a break. There are ways to use stock photo casually without having, a very impersonal and no branding at all on your feed. Some sources are Pexels, Vidivo, and Pixabay. They have free stock options. They will also ask you to do the paid versions as well, but you can get free stock content there. And I have an example here on what this looks like. So we had a dentist who wanted to do something about Halloween candy, and no one really wants to see sticky teeth for Halloween. So one of our social media specialists came up with this video using stock footage to promote Halloween candies. And it has Halloween sound to it. Not sure if that came through in the presentation. But that's a really great example on getting an educational post across and just hands of children reaching into the candy buckets with good timing for Halloween as well.
I can add maybe one more stock resource that we typically use when we can't find something that feels natural enough. That can be a common issue with stock, is that as Juliet mentioned, it can sometimes feel impersonal or not authentic or not natural. So when we run into those situations but still need stock video to fill in B-roll or things like that, a good resource is dupephotos.com, and I'll drop that link in the description as well, or in the chat as well. But just another resource.
And at the agency, we use Adobe Stock, so that is paid for and we have our subscription there. But I know there's a lot of issues with AI content. They do have a filter to take out AI content, but it's becoming saturated with people making AI videos that are just very obviously AI that we don't want to have in that look and feel that we're going for. Okay. So we'll go into a breakdown of some of the common apps as well as my personal feelings on them. Little bonus there. Some of the main ones that I know I use, my friends use, other people at the agency are using is CapCut. You've probably heard it if you've ever heard of TikTok. They are very similar. There is InShot, which in my opinion was one of the most top used apps until Instagram and CapCut started to wedge it out. Instagram, yes, you can edit in the Instagram app, but you can have even more features if you download Edits. That's their relatively new app that they came out with to compete with CapCut. iMovie, you probably have it on your iPhone. I would only recommend it for desktop. The iPhone version is very, very rudimentary. And then Adobe Rush, which is my preferred desktop editing app because of the sizing abilities. So we'll go into that in more detail. So the first one we have is CapCut. This is one of the most popular apps for social media. It did briefly get banned in the winter when TikTok was about to get banned, and then it all came back to life. They have a robust selection of templates that allow you to time clips to the music, and the templates can be somewhat limiting for actual creativity. So you can see here this 4 seconds, 3.4, 2.7, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. What that's asking is for you or me to pick 5 clips, and it will only take 4, 3.5, 2.7, etc. seconds of those clips. So if you've ever been on social media and you see things are timed exactly to the music, that typically isn't someone sitting there trimming every single clip to the beat. Canva or CapCut probably provided a template in order to have that preloaded so that all you do is put the clip in that second section. And that can help too to make sure you're getting clips that are long enough or short enough if you're looking to go with a template approach. This is known as the TikTok app. A lot of CapCut's features are optimized to what's trending on TikTok, to what people need to see with the picture-in-picture and green screen effects. CapCut just came out with a new LinkedIn integration. So you may have seen some changes on LinkedIn overall that people are posting more video content. They have the vertical format. It's people having a social media aesthetic to LinkedIn. And I anticipate that will become even more prevalent now that CapCut allows people to directly upload their videos to LinkedIn. They are really trying to get in on that market. CapCut does have a paid version with more features. It's not something I use. I know people who do pay for it, but I think I get everything I need from it. Previously, auto-generating captions to what was being spoken was only a paid feature, and now Edits offers that for free. They're also really advancing their AI offerings. I know Ryan and I are a little hesitant to jump into this AI culture, but the younger generations are growing up with avatars and with, completely artificially generated content that's very normal to them. But I have a screenshot here from the CapCut website. Welcome to the free all-in-one AI video maker. And it can create brainstorming, instant AI video, match media to script in one click. So there are some pieces where AI can really cut time on what you're trying to edit, and they even offer to the point where it will do your entire project for you. So for better or for worse. Oh, I changed that one to InShot. I missed the title there. But for InShot, this is was one of the most popular apps for social media until it started getting edged out by CapCut and Edits. There is a free version. They're going to ask you to pay every time you open up the app. You can still use InShot without paying for it. They have more effects. They label it as animation, and I have a screenshot up here at the top where you can do, these are just transitions. I would not call them animations, and Ryan as an animator would not call these animations to have slide right and slide left. But they are effects that you can put on. They have some playful features like cutout or tracking or freeze. The audio selection isn't as trendy as the social apps either because it's not directly connected to that. So you could certainly cut your video and then upload it to social media later, but it can be a little limited there. And then to show you some of the features, tried to put bunny ears on my friend, and you can see how that tracking feature goes, but it doesn't quite understand. So playing from there, and you'll see the footage we use for the example is a little trip to a winery that we took a few weeks ago. The next app, which is what I use for the deep dive session, and it is my currently preferred app, is Edits, which is created by Instagram to compete with TikTok and CapCut. It was very buggy at the beginning. When I knew I had this presentation coming up, I was debating if this is the app that we would use, but since their updates, it has gotten a lot better. They have a trending audio section that connects directly to social media. So you can edit everything in one space. Again, this is external to the Instagram app, but directly connected. And I feel that it covers all the basics that you would need without too many overwhelming edits. Too many choices can be dangerous. I showed Adobe Rush, actually it'll be in 2 slides. If you do Adobe Premiere, that one is so overwhelming with all of the things that you can click and what you need to know. It's not good for first-time learners who are not familiar with editing software. It's just too overwhelming. For iMovie, again, I'm recommending this only for desktop. I have a screenshot here of the very limited options that you can do with the iMovie on your iPhone. You can add a filter. These are my chickens eating a pumpkin. You can add a soundtrack and you can fade in and out, and that's about it. The iMovie desktop can pretty much do everything that we're covering in these apps and more. The only piece of advice I have to give you, but if you decide to use iMovie on your desktop, is knowing what the Ken Burns effect is. And I say this because I mentioned I teach my students at Delaware, and we turn our essays into videos using iMovie. And everyone gets stuck when they add a photo and it automatically pans. It starts in this frame and it ends here. And they're going, I don't know why the pictures keep doing that. It's cutting off my photos and the data that I'm trying to present. So I say, go to the photo button and click fit or crop to fill, because if you have Ken Burns on, that is the going from point A to point B and slowly moving. That is a very specific effect. And for whatever reason, iMovie thinks that every single person who puts a photo in their project wants the Ken Burns effect on it. So if you're stuck there, that is your solution. And then finally, Adobe Rush, which is a lot of what I would use for work specifically because of this feature here with the resizing. If you are editing multiple sizes, if you're not just on social media, maybe you're doing a paid ad and you need it in horizontal and square and vertical, I will take my videos to Adobe Rush, and just by clicking the 16:9, 9:16, 4:5, or 1:1, I can very easily resize my video so that it's in the correct format. Similarly, if you have footage that is shot in horizontal and you need to put it on social media, you might be way too punched in to do a 9:16 on your iPhone look. So you could do a 4:5 or a 1:1 square, which will save you some of the margins without having to go completely squeezed in with a narrow field of view. Just gives you a little bit more space when you're uploading the video without all that black space of a horizontal. This would be good for larger files. If you're filming on a camera, you're just going to go right to desktop instead of sending it to your phone. One note about the resizing: if you have text, logos, graphics, it won't do the best job auto reformatting that placement on your video, so you'll have to mess with it again. This is the mini version of Adobe Premiere. I find it to be limited with text and motion graphics. It doesn't have as many options as the social media apps, and the audio is not built in either. You would have to probably download that off of YouTube or another free audio site and add that in manually. Okay. And that's everything that I have for apps. Ryan, did you need to jump in with anything?
Nope, I don't think so. Someone asked where they could find Adobe Rush. It is part of the Adobe Creative Cloud suite. So to my knowledge, it's not a free tool. You would have to be part of the Adobe Creative Cloud suite, which gives you access to kind of all of the Adobe apps for video editing, for designing, for motion graphics, even audio editing. But depending on your package, it is typically a paid application.
Yes, so you could also find a video editor or designer who has the Adobe suite that they can help you with the resizing as well. All right. So for this part, we're going to get into editing. I ask that if this is your first time going through the process, any of the apps that I just went over have the similar basics. They might have a little different layout, but if you have one on your phone, now is a great time to walk through us with this. Any video will do, just to learn some of the tools on how to make a video. And that way, when you know the tools that you are going to be working with, that can really help you while you're out and about getting the shots to know what you need to account for. Okay. So I always recommend that you review your footage before entering the app, because when you pull that up to select your footage, you're just going to click on the exact clips that you want. There isn't a whole lot of preview section. You can certainly delete what you've added. You can add more later if you realize you chose the wrong clip, but it's great to have them in a folder, or if you favorite them, delete what is obviously not usable, permanently store the content on your drive for content capture and future use. I say this as someone with over 20,000 photos on their phone. I take pictures of everything because I never know when I will need that shot, that moment, or memory again. I'm just the kind of person who loves to document their life. Okay, so if you get those videos ready on what you'll be working with, the first step you'll want to do, you open the app, and that's going to be a little bit different depending on what app you use, but there's usually a plus sign somewhere to say add clips. And I recommend you choose maybe 2 to 3 clips to work with. And if you're not following along with your phone, you can certainly access this presentation later when you are ready to. When you import those clips, they will appear chronologically. if first all you see is one video zoomed in, and you're thinking, do I really have to click and drag all the way across this timeline? You do not. If you pinch the timeline, it will zoom out, and that will take you to a view like this, where you can see all of your clips together. They'll be a lot smaller and harder to do fine-tuned edits. And when you're ready to trim the clips, you can zoom back in so you can make second by second adjustments. Also always important to name your project so that you can reopen your app and find them. So we're calling this one Girls' Day. You can also make the decision at the beginning if you want to mute all of your clips. So for a video like this, we're at a winery, there's background noise, people are talking and laughing. I would click 0 volume and apply to all clips so that we don't hear this noise and all you're going to hear is the music. Otherwise, you can go in and individually lower or raise the clips if you do want that background noise. Or if it's not background noise, it's you speaking. But playing with the volume there. Notice how there's a yellow outline around this clip. That's because I tapped on it and selected it specifically. When you don't want to be working with that video clip anymore, just tap back to the outside tracks and it will deselect the clip and all of your options will come back up.
Juliet, you're using these screenshots are from edits, right?
Yes, yes. On the slide, I said we'll be using this one for the project. I had some other screenshots. They're very similar if you use CapCut or InShot. InShot's very similar to edits. But this is, again, when we got back to the first slide, I said nonlinear editing. These all have the same principle where you can see here, this is the sound and this is the visual. So this is the main track here. You've got your A-roll, if you will. And then any other footage is going to be layered on this track here to start creating B-roll and other layers to the footage. So we are looking at 2 tracks at this time. I'll just pause if there's any other questions coming in the opening. Okay. Let's take a look at trimming the clips and working with them. It pains me to say it, but you have to edit for goldfish attention span. On average, clips last only a few seconds. Maybe if you're talking, you're moving in this shot, you are doing something very engaging on camera, then you can get away with longer shots. But overall, we're doing an aesthetic wrap up here. Day at the winery. For that one, I would want to select the clip. So I see it highlighted in yellow. And it's giving me options here. Do I want to split it, change the volume, change the speed, adjust the color, delete it, and then the options continue. I want to select that. And as I drag it in, I would see the 7 seconds going down to 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And that is how you select and drag for the clip you're working with. If you need to cut out the middle, so maybe this is I'm doing the 15-second clip and I like the beginning and I like the end. I don't want to upload the same video twice. Right where this playhead is, if I click split clip right now, it is going to chop that clip in half. And I now have 2 and I can trim them in opposite directions to cut out the middle on this end and cut out the middle on this end. And that's really useful if you're just filming a long shot and you know you're not going to need all of it. You can chop that up within the editing app. If you regret your decision, you decided you didn't want to split the clip, you would need to hit undo as your very next action, which is these buttons here, undo and redo. And then if you want to reorder, so maybe I want to open with the video of the charcuterie and cheese. You can see that this is popped out a little bit. Select and hold, press on the timelines. And when you see this view pop up, that's how you can click and drag the order of the photos, similar to the Canva templates that we saw. Each clip is isolated and you can see how many seconds it is. So you can hold on the clip, press, And when it pops out to the screen, you can see the click and drag to rearrange the order of the clips. I noted here when they start to wiggle, so the clips will dance like if you're rearranging your home screen on your iPhone. Are there any questions on how to trim or rearrange your clips? A lot of it, if you're trying to remember what to do, sometimes it's just what you're selected. So maybe you're selected on the clip and you need to click back out to the main track before you can get your options back, because the menu will change depending on what you have selected. Next, we'll look at adding some text. So that would be in the main panel. If you're not seeing it, you might have your clip selected. So make sure you select out of your clip and you're just on the home view. There is a text box at the bottom. So you can click add text, and from there you can customize the font, color, style, effects, choosing all these different options. I started with a caption. This one's for the girls. I'm twirling a cup of wine. And I added a little sparkle. I chose the elegant font and no other effects here. For things like this, I would be mindful of your branding. If you're putting on neon and halos and shimmers, it could be a bit distracting. All these options, we have fun and we play around, but it can often be best to take the minimalist approach to keep the focus on the video and less on the text. What I even personally struggle with is making the text bigger, because again, this is, you have to click on it and select it. And again, you use the pinch to increase the text, and then you would pinch to make it smaller. Once you have it selected, you can drag it around the screen on where you want the placement. But this is one of those things where I'm clicking and it's not responding, and I'm clicking and it's not responding. So if you're struggling on why is this so confusing, happens to me too. I also want you to be mindful of the safe zones. So one of the main reasons why I've gravitated towards edits is that when you are placing text, it will show you where you should not put it. This one will show up on edits. Keep in mind, edits is different from the TikTok format. TikTok has their information on the left side. Edits is showing in this yellow here. You can see this is where the profile icon would be, and the name and the caption down here. You can see the heart for the likes and the captions. This is unique to the Instagram format. So depending on what editing app you're using, the format could be completely different for what safe space you have. So always recommended to put it in the middle. That is about the only safe space in the video. Unfortunately, the middle is also where your own face goes. So there is going to be some competition there for what you can put. This is also different when you make a paid ad. Paid ads even less space because there's a pop-up that says learn more and buy tickets, whatever the call to action is. There's even less real estate there. If you're finding that the text isn't matching, you can typically in the editing apps select the video itself and zoom in and drag it over. So you're not stuck with the shot that you filmed. You could punch in and go to the side if you need to add more clear space to the background. Okay. Looking at voiceover and captions. Here I'm referring to captions as captions on the video, not captions in the body. You can record your voiceover directly in the apps. Typically, this is again, edits. Just hit the record button and click the check mark. There are ways to lower the ambient noise in the background. There's even here, the sound effects here. I was playing around with it. They even had an ASMR section, and it was not what I would call ASMR, like a bottle of something pouring in eggshells. It was very random. There are some sound effects you can play around with. When I clicked the captions button here, it asked me, do you want to generate it from your voiceover, or do you want us to look at what's being said in the video? And I chose the video. You can see AI is calculating. It has, we took advantage of this beautiful day to take some selfies. So here, if there is a typo because it's AI generated, you can then edit this like any text that you would have, because they know AI is not perfect, so it's okay if it did not capture you correctly, but it will save you all that time of typing it out and trimming them, and it is right over here. Now, if you notice on this last scene, I've added in a voiceover and I've added in the captions here. So we now have 3 tracks. We still have our main track that everything is in one line. On top of that is the audio that I added in. If I were to add music, you would also see the background music track here. I've got the text on screen. So think of it as a hierarchy. It is going to read everything across from top to bottom. So if instead of text, I had a still photo, it would cut from the main track, show the still photo, then cut back to the main track. And that's where you see the terms cutaway in film. Okay. From there, you can choose your audio. So sometimes this would come first. If you're doing a trend based on a specific audio track, you would want to start with the audio first. Social apps like CapCut and Edits will have the trending audio in Instagram already. So this is the audio from Edits. They have a For You, they have saved, and I went over here to trending. It shows you in green, these are songs that are on the rise. And then this one, Fresas, is lowering, and some of these are new as well. You can see big differences where this one, the number 1 song has 4,000 reels. The number 4 song has 532,000 reels. So there is kind of a sweet spot of finding something up and coming, because when the audio is still trending, we once had a video that got picked up just because the audio was very well chosen and it performed extremely well. Nothing special about the video. It was putting apple slices in a lunchbox, but it got over 1,000 views for the choice in audio. Picking something that has a lot of reels going for it could just not play to the algorithm as well. It could be old and done. People are tired of seeing it. So those numbers do matter, and that's why they show it to you. You can also save audio as you're scrolling through Instagram. There's a little, you can click on the song that's playing, and when you hit save, it will link to your Edits account. So you can come back to it later when you're ready to make a video for that. Some thoughts on branding here. You may want to use the overlay or the PIP feature to put your logo on the video, or add a final graphic image with a call to action or event details. So if you're a business and you have your logo in the top corner the whole time, that's a choice. You do have your own account branding that is attached to the video. People should see your logo and your photo, so that you don't need to have your logo, but you could. And having that final title card at the end, you would make the image and then import it maybe on Canva or something if you want to clearly get a visual in front of people. Now, this does have its uses, but noting that social media algorithms prefer an organic and authentic look. Typically, these generations don't want a hard sell. They want content that seamlessly works into your feed so you don't even realize it's a brand. And that's the content that performs best, where you're just scrolling. I can't tell you how many times I've been scrolling and I didn't even realize I was getting an ad, and I watched the whole thing, versus I realized I was getting an ad and I said, oh, skip this. I don't want sponsored content. So being a part of that natural organic system will also help your content perform. Now, we have other presentations on how to get the content to perform. This is simply creating the content. We could talk for another 3 hours if we wanted to go into content strategy. And finally, should be about ready to export directly to social media and download the file to plug in the content. So you can hit that export button. You'll see the little download there, and then it will ask you, do you want to put directly to Instagram or Facebook? Would you like to download it if you have multiple apps you're giving it to, or a scheduling platform that's going to put it out at a later date? If you do click directly to Instagram, it will have a Made with Edits notification on it so that they can promote their own app. Okay. So while you guys are playing around, are there any other questions outside of these basics, any features you're playing with that we didn't cover. I know it can be difficult if you're working with another app. How are we doing with the questions, Ryan?
We got a few coming in now. Just reading through. I'm gonna try to answer them as best I can. Are we at a point where
You've
we're
you've
at
got
the
like 5 minutes, yeah, for a Q&A.
okay?
So I'm seeing a few here. If CapCut has an import audio feature or only in app since there is a desktop version. I believe, yes, you can import your own audio just as you would import your own voice recording. Some of the issues, if you choose to import your own audio, are copyright flags. So if you have your business set up as a business account, you will have even more restrictions on what audio you can use because that's considered using it for profit. If you are set up as a personal account, you would have more options, but you still could get flagged as copyright if you're using music that is not sanctioned by the powers that be of the apps. Okay.
And yes, you could record your own voiceover with a separate app and import it into pretty much any one of these editing softwares to answer that question.
I saw someone ask, how do I zoom into my face only on certain parts of the clip? For that, I would recommend the split clip feature. So if you want to, punch in, then punch back out for dramatic effect, split the clip on either side. For that one, you would pinch and zoom in for your face. And then as you play, you'll have that punch in, punch out.
And to answer the question about mobile and desktop, currently Edit does not have a desktop app. That question came up a few times. But CapCut does have both a mobile and desktop app. And actually, when you have an account with CapCut, um, you can be editing the project on your desktop and then pick up your phone and continue editing on your phone, as long as you're using the cloud-based sort of editing feature. But yes, CapCut has mobile and desktop. Edits is only on mobile.
Yes, a clarifying question on the music came through. If you're using music in the Edits app, then you're fine to post. Yes, so you should be registered as the business account and it will only recommend music for you as a business, which is part of why I recommend these apps, because if you're in something else, you might go through all this to edit to the perfect song only to find out you cannot use it. Yes, punching in is referring to punching in. This is my frame. This is my camera right here. I'm punching in on my face and then zooming out. I'm punching out. Okay, Adobe Express. I have not. I don't know if that's part of our suite package.
It is. Adobe Express is very similar to Canva, in that you can do quite a bit with it, but it can be a little bit limited in those features. So like Canva is an app that you can also do video editing in. I wouldn't recommend using Canva for video editing or animation, just because it's a little bit clunky and it's a little bit hard to use. And the features are a bit limited. So I definitely would recommend CapCut, and Juliet is recommending edits as well. So those are kind of the two big ones that I would try to stick to, but feel free to give these other applications a shot, and if they feel better for you, then that's great.
Yeah, to echo what Ryan said about Canva, it can be tempting because you've got all your graphic design pieces there, and it's easy to just take an image and put that in your video, but the video part of Canva is, like he said, clunky. Thoughts on transitions? There's a lot of jump cuts trending That's kind of the style on social media. But play around with what feels right for you. If you think the dissolve is a little more gentle for what you're trying to ease into. So there's going to be a feature if you're under the album, there should be, if it says recent, maybe a little caret, a little icon, click that drop down and it will let you go into choose the exact album that you want to pull out of. I know there's so many little details.
Yeah, all of these apps have tutorials. You can go on YouTube and or Google and just type in how do I do this in CapCut or how do I do this in Edits, and it should come up with a bunch of resources for you to learn more about these specific softwares and programs.
Yeah, when I put bunny ears on my friend, I looked up, how to use the tracking feature in InShot and it said click on the sticker and then place it on who you want to track and went from there.
And yeah, a lot of YouTube videos will take it step by step and share their screen and you can follow along. So it might be helpful if you are very interested in exploring this topic on a deeper level. There are a lot of free resources online for you to follow along and sort of continue gaining knowledge on the subject.
Yes, screen recordings can be helpful as well. And if anyone has any other additional questions, you can always reach out to us. Here, our main line is contact at Miranda Creative. You can find us at mirandacreative.com or on social media as well.
Well, I want to thank both of you for, again, Miranda never fails to give us really quality webinar presentations, and this is just another example of that. Just a reminder to everybody that the video of this will be available on www.score.org in a couple days, and Ryan was good enough to post the link to Miranda's site, so you can access it there. So thank you so much, both of you, and best of luck to everybody with their video work.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. And thank you, Dave, for hosting. And
Well,
Ryan.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.